Alright, good morning. How are we all doing today?
Good.
So today we have a speaker here to talk to us about weeds, and not just any weeds, the really pesky ones that are Roundup resistant. So our speaker, who is majoring in landscape contracting, has always been interested in agriculture, so much so that he even started studying in high school, so he's pretty knowledgeable in the subject. He grew up always having a garden, and it was always his job to do the weeding. But he really became interested in Roundup-resistant weeds when he found that using Roundup-resistant crops would actually aid the Roundup-resistant weeds. So can we please get a round of applause for our speaker, Mr. ElliottR, and his presentation, Super Weeds.
Thank you, everyone. As she said, we were going to talk about super weeds today, and these are Roundup-resistant weeds, and if anybody doesn't know what Roundup is, it has the active ingredient of glyphosate, which prevents the plant from making essential amino acids. So a few objectives. What caused this rise of super weeds? Also, how can we help solve this issue, and also how the weed control practices of our farmers is making an impact on these weeds. So, has anybody ever heard of Monsanto? Okay, a few. So, Monsanto is actually who came out with Roundup. They had a guy that actually invented glyphosate, and so that went into their Roundup, but now you can get all different kinds of just, generic brands of technically Roundup. It has the same active ingredient, but not the name. So, Monsanto actually came out with Roundup, and so in the 1990s they introduced Roundup Ready crops, which these crops you could go out and spray your entire field with Roundup and it would not hurt the crop but kill every other weed. So this was a huge step forward in agriculture. Used to you had to go through and individually spray the weeds, so now you could go right over. But at the time only the benefits were recognized, where it's actually caused some pretty bad instances where some of the weeds in the fields were, kind of crossbreeding with the crops, therefore gaining the gene to be resistant to the Roundup, which is a huge problem. So monoculture, if y'all doesn't know what this is where you're using the same crop over and over in the same area. It's definitely not good. We like to have genetic diversity, even not just on our farms, but also out in our landscapes. You see a lot, it's not too bad on campus, but you'll see a lot of the same trees or the same shrubs just because it looks formal, but it's not very good because these species can, be spread by birds or wind or whatever and become invasive and take over our natural forests. And this is also a problem on farms because people will plant the same crops in the same exact fields. Therefore, these fields have the same crops and the same weeds come back, so it gives them more of a chance to crossbreed with these crops, therefore give them the characteristic to be weed resistant, to be Roundup resistant. So the herbicide practices of the farmers has a big impact on this. Before the introduction of these Roundup Ready crops, they used a few different kinds of herbicides. So the weeds didn't get used to the same herbicide, therefore becoming resistant to it. They would use a few different ones, which you could not get these herbicides on the crops or it would kill them. So once the introduction of this, the Roundup Ready crops, people just started using Roundup. So to me, I think the introduction of the Roundup Ready crops actually kind of encouraged the farmers to use Roundup, because if they wouldn't have came out with it if they didn't want you to use Roundup, and Monsanto came out with it, so of course they're trying to sell their product, so it makes sense, but then again it also hurts the environment. So no-till farms, a lot of farmers are going to this today, trying to help with erosion and things of that nature. People used to go through their fields and till up all the weeds. This would definitely get rid of everything, but now they're trying to go through the farming season without tilling any in order to prevent erosion and try to keep the soil quality very good. But this also increases the amount of Roundup you have to use, which therefore has negative consequences. So tillage is really a good way to control your weeds, but you also have to find a way to help control that erosion as well. So how can we stop the issue? Can't really stop it in its tracks, but the weeds that are here that are resistant to Roundup are here to stay, of course, but we need to do something to help with the prevention of more weeds gaining resistance to the Roundup. I think that we need to quit using so much Roundup because, if you keep using it, more weeds are going to gain resistance, so we need to start using different herbicides and also practices of weed control that are not related to using herbicides. And the monoculture really needs to be stopped. You can plant the crop in this field this year, but put something else in it next year, and this will help with having these resistant weeds because they're not crossbreeding with the same crop every year. So a few other ways to help the issue. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of cover crops. This is using the same crop in the field like that picture and putting it in between, and this will actually add nutrients to the soil as well as keeping the weeds down because weeds can't grow through that plant. So it's keeping the weeds choked down and also adding nutrients to the soil, so both benefits to the plant. And also the use of mulch. You see it out here on campus. It has benefits. It looks good, but it also keeps down weeds and things of that nature. That's its main purpose. So that could be used out in the fields, on the farms, but it would require right much labor, so farmers are kind of staying away from that. So in conclusion, of course there's not a way that you can just stop these weeds, but we have to do everything we can in order to help keep them from spreading. So I think we need to start taking more sustainable approaches to weed control and not just saying, okay, let's plant these Roundup ready crops, then we can spray Roundup however much we want. It doesn't work that way. It's going to cause more problems down the road. So we need to try to think about the future as we try to work our farms. So sustainable weed control, as the ways I mentioned earlier, cover crops, mulch, rotating your crops. Tillage could also be used. So, if you use these ways, I think it would help keep these weeds from gaining resistance and also help keep them from spraying so much pesticides out on your farm. So, thank you.